delighted today to introduce my mate Rob Davis into Hitmakers Exposed. And I've known and worked with Rob for many, many years, and one of the coolest dudes around, particularly because he came from the glam rock era that was my childhood. Thanks so much for being here, Rob. Good to see you, mate.
And you, pleasure.
I've known about you. I've known your history for ages, but I've been going even deeper and deeper into it, and it's like reading a bit of a biog from Spinal Tap. All of the bands that you were in the early days, like the Apaches and the Barracudas and the Remainder.
You're going back.
Yeah, I know, right. But of course, it really it looks like it all kicked off for you with Mud back in '66, wasn't it? That Mud got formed.
Yeah.
I want to go through basically your history in music, your life in music, but going further back than that, before it all started. I ask everybody this, Rob. Was there a point in your childhood when you heard a record and you just thought, oh shit, my life is never going to be the same now I've heard this record? Do you have one of those?
God, I think I've got a few. I mean, I've got like Green Onions, Booker T, Apache, The Shadows, Dwayne Eddy, yeah, all those early people, brilliant. And Elvis even.
Yeah, he showed a lot of promise. So what did it inspire you to do? Were you trying to sing at that point? Did you want to play? What was your gig?
When I was about 10, I think I was in love with the guitar, and I think my gran bought me one. And before I even had one, I used to draw them. I was like completely bonkers about guitars and fanatical about them. She bought me a cranky L1, and I got some little classical lessons on it. And I never got on with reading music, and I just sort of jammed to myself after that. And I took a couple of exams with classical guitar. But yeah, just jammed along with records, loved it. Dave Mount from Mud was my neighbour at 2. We were friends when we grew up. Before we even had a band together, he had a paper round, collected records. I said to him, "Get some drums." So he got a kit in, and we formed the Remainder, Barracudas, all those bands, and that became Mud eventually.
Amazing.
But Dave unfortunately died 20 years ago. Yeah.
So. When you formed Mud, what was it like in the early days?
The early days, we would have like a little local following before we made it. We all gave out our jobs when we were about early 20s, late teens, and our first gig was a tour of Sweden for a month, and we all dumped our jobs and decided to go pro. And from there on, it went really well. Unlike now, we got paid really well for doing gigs, did all the northern social clubs. Everybody thought Mud came from Newcastle or Manchester because we did so much work up there, but it was good money in those days. We even backed strippers in Sutton, Coldfield and places like that. We did anything to earn money.
So was it covers you were doing, or was it originals or mix thereof?
Mostly covers, but we'd have different sets. We'd have a heavier set for the unis. We'd have a Mountie and Les used to do a lot semi-comedy set for the social clubs and all those, I don't know, those Tiffany's sort of places. And yeah, we and I was writing a little bit in those days, and I was always into Revoxes and piling loads of tracks together. But it's quite a messy recording in those days.
Do you know what? There was a thing about this. I've talked to a bunch of people about, touring the northern working men's clubs, and they weren't the easiest of audiences, but it was real sort of learning your craft, wasn't it? Learning your stage craft and how to be a live performer, right?
Yeah, we had to support bingo a lot. Yeah, bingo's on. Band's got to finish now.
Yeah, I remember playing a pub once, and the landlady came up halfway through a song. I'm literally halfway through singing this delicate ballad, and the landlady came up and whispered in my ear while I'm singing. She goes, "When you finish, stop after this one because it's the meat raffle." And it was like,
exactly. That's always more important.
Yeah, I've reached the pinnacle of my career here. So
yeah.
At what point did you then get signed? What did you have to do to get signed back in the late 60s?
It was like we had records out. We won a competition at Silver Blaze Ice Rink, which got us a recording deal and a publishing deal and a management thing, I think. So we had some early things on. We had this horrible record called Jumping Jehoshaphat, and I wrote a thing called Flower Power, which Junior Campbell produced in about '69, and then Mitch Murray and Peter Callender wrote something for us called Shangri-La, and that was all before Chin and Chapman and Mickey Most, of course. And in those early days, Mickey saw us in a London club way before we signed with Chin and Chapman, a couple of years before. And I think he had us in mind. And as we were doing the circuit, sent Nicky and Mike up to see us in Nottingham. And of course, Les was a fucking amazing frontman. He fucked around and did all these mad things on stage. He was never a great singer, but like he was the best frontman. And Mike loved him. He did the Elvis impersonation in the set. You know, we did a little set of 3 or 4 Elvis numbers. And I think Mike saw that, hence Lonely's Christmas and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you're talking about Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman, of course, who were like huge hit makers of the 70s, weren't they? Just massive hit makers. Yeah. Funnily enough, I was just having a conversation with Nicky Chin last night about a tune that we wrote, and then telling my partner about all of the amazing songs that Chin and Chap wrote back in the 70s. When you said you signed to Chin and Chapman, was it some kind of deal where they would write all of your stuff then?
Yeah, it was a production deal which they were in with Mickey Most. So we went out on Rack, and Mike produced us and wrote us. Mike was like a 5th member of the band. He would come down to the parish rooms in Mitcham where we all lived and rehearse with us, you know, the songs and stuff, play rhythm guitar and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, and
he was a real G it all up. It was great, Mike Chapman, brilliant.
Yeah,
he'd push along. Went on to do Blondie, so he didn't do bad.
Yeah, he did pretty good. They both did, didn't they? And your big one was, or the big two with Mud, was Tiger Feet and Dynamite, wasn't it? Was that what really put you guys on the map?
Yeah, Crazy was the first single, which was '72, and Hypnosis, and then Dynamite was the big one. Like, went to 3, I think. The other 2 were like just top 20s.
Yeah.
Dynamite went to 3, and then of course Tiger Feet went to number 1 the following year. Yeah.
So what was it like doing Top of the Pops?
Oh, incredible in those days. I mean, people ask me about our clothes and stuff. They were all made at Carnaby Cavern, and this guy Colin Wilde sort of made drapes for the guys, and he made drapes for me and said, "It don't look right. I'm going to change yours." And he made me a catsuit, and then it all got bonkers. Got the earrings, and everybody thought I was wearing dresses. It's just very flary trousers, you know. But yeah, with the Top of the Pops, the staff and all that would put the earrings on me, do the makeup, and make it all more over the top, you know. But incredible when we had the number 1. It was like champagne in it, through and through.
Oh, that must have been amazing. What did it actually sort of feel like when do you remember where you were when you found out you got the number 1 position?
Yeah, I think. Where were we? We were probably doing a gig somewhere, but the following week, of course, Top of the Pops, I remember more about that. It was like, the vibe was like incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody flying around and getting pissed after we go.
So what took you then from, because Mud broke up in 1980, didn't they? What sort of took you away from the path of being in other bands at that point and moving across to songwriting more? Because you did a bit of a stint with the Tremolos and the Darts as well, didn't you?
I did a couple of years with Darts, and a friend of mine who's still a friend now, called Stan Alexandra, joined Darts, and from there on we wanted to be Hall and Oates, so we were writing together for quite a few years. But I did 2 years. We did 2 American tours with Darts, which was a lot of fun. They're still all around, those guys. Lovely lot, mad. And through that period, I got into writing. Yeah, through the 80s, really.
And at what point did you suddenly think, okay, this is me now? I'm a you know, we call ourselves backroom guys, don't we? You know, the ones that nobody sees, but writing away. What point did you sort of know that that was your thing? Was it getting success at it and then thinking, okay, yeah, this is my path?
I was doing that writing thing all through the 80s, so I didn't have any hits till about 93. So it's quite a long time, but I just loved the studio recorded side of it. I just loved the buzz on writing a new song, and I just enjoyed that side of it so much. Although it's a lot more work than you think it's going to be, but it's like when you're young, you're up all night writing and producing, and you come back the next morning, it sounds like shit, and I think, oh, nowadays let's go to bed 12 o'clock and see what it's like in the morning. Yeah. And you couldn't bring it up very quick in those days either, could you? You'd have to leave everything on all night, sort of thing.
Yeah, completely. What's your process for writing then, Rob?
So this is one thing. I'm doing a write with a girl I know is brilliant coming next week, and we're going to try and do a Kylie pitch. So I've put together. It's not how I always do it. I've put together a few tracks that I think could be vibey to write across, and which we'll do when she comes. You know. Sometimes I do a whole backing track, or do quite a few ambient things as well as dance things. But sometimes I sit down with a guitar and have a write with some chords and stuff. And if I love the chords, maybe transfer them to keyboards later. But I always like to have loads of lyrics going on in my phone, just a little trigger ideas, really. And that's so important to get a good lyric nowadays, I think.
Yeah,
they're different, you know.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's different. I mean, for the last 70 years, people have been writing a lot of the same lyrics, and I always say one of the biggest challenges is coming up with a familiar theme but said in an unfamiliar way. You know, that unusual uniqueness, isn't it?
That's what it is, I think, rather than the same old codswallop, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a song called Tocca's Miracle. It was like #1 in 2000. Yeah. I've noticed Calvin Harris has ripped that off twice, little ideas from it on a couple of his things, like an Ellie Goulding one and another one with someone else. And I'm thinking, he's definitely been listening to that, you know.
He's been influenced by it, has he? Let's talk about that, because Tocca's Miracle was a massive song, wasn't it? Your first big #1 hit as a songwriter. How did that all come about?
It started off with a co-write with a guy called Victor Imbres, which my publisher at the time sent me to Washington to write with him. And he was sort of a track man, but not much of a musician. But he was had a bit of technology going on. And I went with him, did it in his flat, a couple of things, and it came from that we did one track with the top line on which Ruth, my publisher at the time, said, no, that's not it. And I kept the track and wrote Miracle at home in my garage at 32 Beaconsfield in Epsom, and the top line, and that was put on the original track, and it came out as I Need a Miracle. And a couple of years later, he took us the Fragma track was flown under that vocal. That's what became the #1. Yeah, Fragma was like a big track before the song was on it.
Does that sort of thing happen a lot in your world then, where you're getting sort of mashups of stuff that you've done with stuff that other people have done?
Little bits. I mean, like Groovejet was a similar thing, where someone at Universal said, "Oh, write a vocal over it." The track was already doing well, and so I came up with that chorus, and Sophie came up with that verse. That's how that works. So yeah, often you maybe you write over a track and you never see the person that's ever done the track. But
yeah. And we'll come to Groovejet in a minute, but so your first #1 as a songwriter with Tocca's Miracle, how did that feel?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, like lots of press going out, and yeah.
Does that presumably that changes the way that people in the business look at you when that happens?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think I'm a top liner, but they don't. For a couple of years, thought that, and they get you to throw their tracks at you and see if you can come up with something. It still happens now, really, but there's just not much money in it nowadays. But yeah, but it's always worth doing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Spiller then. Groovejet, If This Ain't Love, because that was like the summer record, wasn't it? That was an unbelievable song. Number one in 5 countries, and number 8 in the end of year charts, which is amazing as well. So that came back from a track that was already kicking around, and you just
It had a big
out.
sample on it. Yeah, it was a guy DJ called Spiller, and he sampled Soul Nugget, some of that catalogue, and it was that. So the splits on that track weren't very good, but still done amazing.
So how do you go about, for the people that are listening to this, how do you go about top lining? I know you're a producer as well, but when somebody gives you a track, what's your approach to coming up with ideas, coming up with hit songs over the tops of existing tracks?
Sometimes I'll think, I wonder if I've got a vocal already in the key of this track, if I'm vibing off the track, and if I think it could work. This has worked for me only a couple of times. I'll take a vocal off, stretch it, tune it, and throw it over something that it wasn't written on, so which makes it a bit quirkier than it's something you'd never write, So I do that a little bit, and it's worked a couple of times, but not all the time. But sometimes I'll just drag through and try and come up with a good chorus, and I have like 10 ideas and listen to it the next morning. Thing is one of them worth putting a good vocalist on,
How do you know? What's your divining rod of, is it worth spending more time on it?
Yes, I think you've got to learn to chuck things when it's just all right, and just move on. I try and do this with singers that come to me, and maybe ponder through about 4 or 5 tracks and see if there's any one good little hook or one vocal line that feels like it could be magical. I think you should go with your gut, really,
Yeah.
And a lot of experience helps, in that front, I think.
It's definitely something that you got to learn, isn't it? To be a bit subjective with your own, or objective rather, with your own music, and be able to kick stuff out.
Yeah, you got to learn to kick them out, and not hard. I know people like keep doing the same song round and round. I remember people coming to me in the old days. Oh, I love this. I want to re-record that. I'm saying, no, it's a pile of shit to start with. Don't spend any more time on it.
We have to, of course, talk about "Can't Get You Out of My Head" for Kylie as well, because that was a moment in pop history. I think probably even more so in your history as well. Probably a bit of a game changer. And that was your first songwriting session with Cathy Dennis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the second. We were booked in for a weekend, and that was the second song.
Right. Yeah. How did it come about? Because it's so simple. How did it all come about? What was the process for writing that song?
She drove down to me, I think, from Fulham when she lived at the time, and I lived in Epsom. And I sort of wanted to do a dance thing, because I was getting into that. Done a lot of that with Paul. So I had a 125 BPM loop up before we started, and she said, "Oh, I was humming this idea on the way down here. I just can't get it out of my head." She said, "I was humming that in the car," and that's how it started, against like a D minor, A minor chord sequence, and then we sort of just built it up in bits. She already had that hook. I did the nah thing later, but I built it up with acoustic guitar first, and then put some keys on. And I'd been doing some jazz lessons, some piano jazz lessons, and those first chords are like 90 sort of vibes, So I was using those on some of it, and we had a diminished in that song, which is probably a very rare chord for a dance track nowadays. Had a diminished chord in it, but it was just built up in sections. It wasn't a whole track. It was just like chords, first verse, sing a vocal in, bridge, chords, vocal, and then it wasn't right into a track. Just drums initially.
Wow. Yeah. I love the fact you got some expensive chords in there as well.
Yeah.
You said the na 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 came later, because it's I think there's a lot of songwriters that would say, "Oh no, it's got to be, everything has got to be lyrics," but you look back in history over some of the biggest hits, Van Morrison, and I mean, you name it. There's so many la la las and sha la las. Was that a leap of faith for you? Was it a thing where you just couldn't think of a lyric and you just use it? How did it come about?
Well, I think I was singing on guitar at one point, and I just came out. No, no, I just came out with it. Everything was looping and coming out as we went along, and we'd have. I think it was like a B flat, a bridge thing, and then that was the every day, every night, C B flat to A, and the diminished chord in the middle there. It's just weird how it was just built up in sections, instead of going, right, this is the track, you've got to do it like this. It was like just being open with everything.
Yeah. How long did it take you to write that song top to bottom?
It was demoed in 7 hours. Written and demoed in 7 hours.
Okay. That was a good 7 hours, wasn't it?
Yeah, and to get it, I sort of did the rough mix, and then I mixed it with an engineer at Universal at the time, and I think the demo cost about $2,000 altogether to make, and the video was $200,000.
Wow, yeah. And so you produced the record as well, then?
With Cathy, yeah.
Brilliant. And let's talk about the success that it had, because it sold several million copies. Was it 4 million copies it sold? Or is it more
worldwide?
now?
I think it's definitely a million here, but I think it was number one in 40 countries. I was told.
Number one in 40 countries. That's something that doesn't happen much
No.
Anywhere for anyone. How did you celebrate?
I think it was a long weeks of celebration. Every time I heard the song on the radio, like freak, fucking hell, it's getting played again.
Yeah.
It's funny because the song was written like 6 months before it came out, and I sent it to Jamie Nelson and as a cassette, I think, back then, and he said, and then I saw him a few months later, and he said, "Oh, Kylie's coming down to you in October to vocal it." I went, "What?" Yeah, just from the Cathy demo, So yeah, and she'd learnt it back to front as well.
That's good. What's she like to work with then? Is she pretty pro?
She was lovely, yeah. She knew the track back to front, and she came down to my little garage, and I can remember Gregory, my son, who was like, I don't know, probably about 10 then. He said, "Who's that little girl in the studio?" It's like Kylie,
Mate, I mean, well, first of all, congratulations, because it was such an amazing song. There's stats that I've got in front of me: 3,000 radio plays in a single week in the UK, which is the interesting thing I think about this is that, you did your apprenticeship, and we'd forget about the live stuff, but you did, like you said, you were writing all through the 80s and got your first sort of like success in 93. So you put in your groundwork behind it. What kept you going in all of the time that you didn't have your Kylie and your Fragma? What kept you going as a writer?
Because I'm a guitar player, one of my big enjoyments was like doing little local gigs, and sometimes I used to prefer them to doing the big ones where you could have a little jam and play some guitar and do some blues and stuff like that. Love all that as well, But it all makes your musical world a bit more open, like just doing dance tracks or whatever,
Yeah. How do you stay positive? Advice for anybody that's listening to it that would love to have a song like "Can't Get You Out of My Head" and they're on their journey waiting for that first taste of success. How do you stay positive? How do you stay focused and believing in yourself?
My missus is a yoga teacher, and I've been into yoga since the 70s, and I think I've been taught to move on with things. Like you write a song, think this is great, but just keep doing it and doing it. But if you just do one song, this is great, and this is all I'm going to do, then unless you're George Michael or something, you're you need to do more.
Yeah.
Just keep hammering songs out and getting them out there. But it's so different now. You've got to have your TikTok and everything going as well with it.
Yeah. And how productive are you as a writer these days?
Yeah, I'm every day. I'm in this studio every day for a few hours at least, and strumming a guitar in another room or something. Just always just doing it.
Yeah.
But,
And you're still getting the same joy from it.
yeah. I think the joy comes when you get something a bit special, or you think, "Oh, I'm loving this track," and just play it to a couple of people, see if they love it, or just sometimes I'll do a whole track and do a vocal as well. There's this AI thing out there where you can sing something and make it sound like a soulful girl or something. Do you know about all that?
Yeah.
Some plugins coming out.
Yeah, I'm at that point. That's where I draw the line. I can't go there.
Oh no. Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got so Can't Get You Out of My Head. You got an Ivor Novello for it, and you got a Grammy as well for it, right?
No, Grammy was for Come Into My World. That was like a number one. The Grammys that year, 2004, the opening act was Prince and Beyonce duetting on Would I Die For You. It was like, fuck, the whole thing was amazing. Wow. Better than anything I've ever seen from the Brits. It was so incredible.
Yeah.
All these massive people.
So that was for another massive Kylie Minogue song, Come Into My World. How many does that on the music? How many cuts have you had now with Kylie?
Just three. I got three on the Fever album.
Yeah, just three on the biggest selling Kylie album. Amazing. What you've also done the sort of more meditation music as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I did a thing called Shack Tracks, which is like ambient stuff. Yeah.
And tell us more about that.
Yeah, I've always sort of loved, because of the yoga thing, I've always been into a lot soft sounding music and ambient stuff. And just about 5 years ago, I just fancied doing an album of it and put them together. And I still do touches of that. I mean, you can link dance music with that a little bit, because you get soft sections in dance music and can use those sort of chords to build up into something madder. Yeah. And start off with an ambient thing. It's just what I find. Speed it up maybe.
So is there anything, any artist or any style that you'd love to do that you haven't yet done? What's on the go-to list? I mean, with achievements like this, it's like, is there much left on the list?
I've got to tell you something really funny. One of my favourite ever bands, and all our favourite bands, are Steely Dan, isn't it? I mean, if you listen to their songs, incredible lyrics, incredible musicianship, great melodies. I went to see like Donald Fagen with Steely Dan like about 5 or 6 years ago at the O2, and he sort of lost his voice. And someone told me about this band called Royal Scam. Have you heard of them? Royal Scammers.
No.
We went to see them at Ronnie Scott's last week. 2 numbers, incredible. Like it's just like the records, the proper brass, the proper vocalists and everything. And 2 numbers, the whole thing went down at Ronnie Scott's. They had to cancel the rest of the night. The computer went, and that's got nothing to do with like where I want to go, but it's like a great influence. Those songs are just incredible, and they Steely Dan stuff.
What have been for you those? I call them the highs you can't buy. The things when you first pick up a guitar, like we both did, and you have no idea that X amount of time later on you'll be working with this person or that person, or that you've got this award or that. What are those? What are some of the highs that you just never saw coming that you just will take with you all the way?
It's really funny. When we first put Mud together, we were all like mates from Mitcham in Surrey, and we never had that ambition like I want to be a star. I think we just did it because we loved it, and that's been the whole process through the whole career. Really, just do it because you love it, and not because like you want to be rich and famous. And I think if you dedicate yourself in that way, then you'll spend more time crafting the songs and stuff.
Yeah.
But some people can just do it from nothing, but it's hard to get the whole thing right, the song right, the artist right, the pitch right. There's probably millions of hit songs sitting in catalogues that are never going to get touched.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's where you've got your social media together.
So what's been the big one for you? Would you say it was the Ivor, the Grammy, the just getting a number one, or would it be the first time you ever went on telly? What would you
I think
say?
first time you go on telly, your whole family's excited, everybody's buzzing. Yeah, it's I think my mum was never impressed with the records, but if you're on telly, darling, that's it, you know.
Were they behind it? Were your parents behind your making the music?
Yeah. Well, especially when I was wearing the earrings and stuff like that earlier on, I lived with my mum and dad. And one quote, this is really funny. My mum said to me, "Why can't you join a nice group like the Shadows?" And I saw Bruce Welch for a lunch just before Christmas with a few other people, and I told him that story. It was hilarious. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
He's a lovely guy, Bruce.
Yeah. So if you could go back to the 10-year-old with a guitar, what advice would you give little Rob?
Keep practicing, keep doing it, listen to records, learn, listen to what I never listened to lyrics when I was younger, but now the lyric is so important. Listen to the lyrics, what chord sequences, take them further. Listen to jazz. I mean, if you can get some jazz lessons, do it, because the chords in that stuff are just brilliant, and just pull them into pop music, maybe simplify them. But yeah, listen to loads of music.
Thank you so much, Rob. Fascinating. Thanks for the insights.